The boardroom stretched before him like a courtroom, all mahogany and judgment. 12 faces stared at Marcus Hayes from across the polished table, their expressions ranging from pity to contempt. His hand trembled over the signature line, the pen feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Richard Ashford's voice cut through the silence, smooth as aged whiskey and twice as dangerous. "Sign it, Mr. Hayes, or lose everything." The document beneath Marcus's fingers detailed lies he would have to swear to, claims of instability, accusations of poor judgment, words that would destroy Elena Torres's career and reputation, words that would make him complicit in corporate murder. Across the table, Elena sat perfectly still, her CEO mask firmly in place. But Marcus saw what others missed: the slight tremor in her jaw, the way her fingers gripped the armrest, the silent plea in her eyes. His phone screen lit up on the table. Maya's school photo smiled at him, gap-toothed and full of trust. His 6-year-old daughter, who believed her father could do no wrong, who thought the world operated on fairness and truth. What would he teach her with his choice today? Marcus's mind flashed back to a moment burned into his memory, his daughter's voice, small and certain. "Daddy, you always do what's right." As if it were that simple. As if right and wrong didn't sometimes cost everything you had. The pen hovered. The room held its breath. Richard leaned forward, his smile predatory. "Think about Maya, Marcus. Think about your mother's medical bills. One signature solves all your problems. One signature. That's all it would take. Let me tell you how a single father making $87,000 a year ended up in this moment. How a midnight knock during a storm changed 2 lives forever. How doing the right thing became the hardest choice Marcus Hayes ever made. This story doesn't start here, in this boardroom full of sharks. It starts 6 weeks earlier, on the worst night of Elena Torres' life. 6 weeks earlier. The storm hit Chicago with fury, the kind that makes the windows rattle and turns streets into rivers. Marcus Hayes stood in his small kitchen, focused on the careful task of checking his daughter's homework folder. Every paper needed to be signed. Every permission slip required attention. This was the architecture of single parenthood, built one small detail at a time. The clock on the microwave read 11:47 p.m. Maya had been asleep for 3 hours, her breathing steady in the bedroom down the hall. The apartment was quiet except for the rain hammering against the glass. Marcus allowed himself these late-night moments, times when the world slowed down enough for him to think. On the kitchen counter sat 3 pill bottles. Patricia Hayes, the labels listed medications Marcus had memorized. Metformin for diabetes, lisinopril for blood pressure, atorvastatin for cholesterol, $340 a month, even with insurance. His mother's health measured in copays and prior authorizations. Next to the pills lay Maya's tuition statement. Riverside Academy, $6,200 due in 3 weeks. A good school, safe, diverse. The kind of place where a black girl could flourish without constantly fighting for space. Worth every penny he didn't quite have. Marcus set down Maya's homework and picked up the framed photo next to the sink. Teresa smiled at him from 3 years ago, her arms around a baby Maya. His wife's face was bright with life and love, untouched by the cancer that would take her 8 months later. "Miss you, baby," he whispered to the empty kitchen. "Hope I'm doing this right." The doorbell shattered the moment. Marcus froze. Nobody visited at midnight, not in this neighborhood, not during a storm. His hand instinctively moved toward the drawer where he kept the baseball bat, a precaution from his Marine days. The bell rang again, urgent, desperate. He moved to the door, checking the peephole. What he saw made no sense. Elena Torres stood in his doorway. Not just any Elena Torres. Not the confident CEO who commanded boardrooms and made million-dollar decisions. This Elena Torres was soaked to the bone, mascara streaming down her face in black rivers. Her designer coat hung heavy with rain. Her hands shook as she reached for the bell a third time. Marcus opened the door. Elena's eyes met his, and he saw something he'd never seen before in his boss. Complete devastation. "Miss Torres?" His voice came out uncertain. "Are you okay?" "I'm sorry." Her words barely carried over the storm. "I didn't know where else to go." For a long moment they stood there, the CEO and the analyst, the woman with everything and the man with just enough. connected by something neither had planned for. Marcus stepped aside. Come in. Elena hesitated at the threshold, as if crossing it would change something fundamental. Then the thunder cracked overhead, and she stepped inside. The door closed behind her, shutting out the storm. Neither of them knew it yet, but that single moment would alter the course of both their lives, would force them to choose between safety and integrity, between what was easy and what was right. But first, there would be hot chocolate. The sound of small feet padding down the hallway broke the awkward silence. Maya appeared in her unicorn pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Her natural hair formed a wild halo around her face. The careful cornrows Marcus had braided that morning, now fuzzy with sleep. Daddy, who's at the door? Marcus moved quickly to intercept his daughter, but Maya had already spotted Elena. The child's eyes went wide, taking in the crying woman dripping water onto their worn carpet. Maya, honey, go back to bed. Daddy will be there in a minute to tuck you in again. But Maya's attention was fixed on Elena with that peculiar intensity children have, the ability to see straight through adult pretenses to the hurt underneath. You're sad, Maya announced, her voice matter of fact. When I'm sad, Daddy makes me hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. It helps a lot. Elena let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. She knelt down to Maya's level, not caring about her expensive coat or her ruined makeup. That sounds like very good medicine. I can show you how he makes it, Maya offered, extending her small hand with complete trust. It's special. Marcus started to object. This was his boss. There were boundaries, professional lines that shouldn't be crossed. But Elena had already taken Maya's hand, and his daughter was leading her toward the kitchen with the confidence of a child who had never learned to doubt her own kindness. 20 minutes later, the three of them sat at Marcus's small kitchen table. Maya perched on a phone book booster seat, Elena wrapped in one of Marcus's old Marine Corps sweatshirts, and Marcus standing at the stove, stirring milk and chocolate in a dented pot. The secret, Maya explained to Elena with great seriousness, is you have to stir it slow. If you go fast, it gets lumpy. Daddy says good things take time. That's very wise, Elena said softly. My daddy's the smartest. He knows everything about money. He helps people at work, and he makes the best hot chocolate in the whole world. Marcus brought 3 mugs to the table, each topped with a mountain of miniature marshmallows. Maya grabbed hers with both hands, blowing on the surface with exaggerated care. Thank you, Elena said, meeting Marcus's eyes over the steam. For this, for letting me in. Everyone needs help sometimes. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the storm continuing its assault outside. Maya kicked her feet under the table, lost in the simple pleasure of her hot chocolate. Elena watched her with something like hunger, as if she were witnessing something precious she'd never thought to want. Do you have kids? Maya asked suddenly. No, Elena's voice caught. I never. Work was always more important. That's sad. Kids are the best. I mean, I'm the best, Maya grinned, showing the gap where her 2 front teeth used to be. But other kids are probably good too. I'm sure they are. Are you married? Maya, Marcus warned gently. That's personal. But Elena shook her head. It's okay. She looked at Maya, and Marcus saw her make a decision. To be honest, to be vulnerable. I thought I was going to marry someone, but he hurt me, so now I'm not. Maya considered this with the gravity of a judge. My mommy died. That hurt Daddy a lot. Like, a lot, a lot. He still cries sometimes when he thinks I'm asleep. Maya. But Daddy says love is always worth it, even when it hurts. Because love is what makes us real people instead of robots. She took another sip of hot chocolate, leaving a marshmallow mustache. Are you real or a robot? Elena let out a genuine laugh, the first real sound of joy Marcus had heard from her. I don't know anymore. I might have been a robot for a while. That's okay. Daddy can help you be real again. He's good at that. An hour later, Maya was finally back in bed, this time genuinely asleep. Elena had changed into dry clothes, an old Howard University t-shirt and sweatpants that Marcus had dug out from the back of his closet. She sat on his worn couch, hands wrapped around a fresh mug, looking more human than he'd ever seen her. I'm sorry, she said quietly, for barging in like this, for crossing every professional boundary we have. What happened tonight? Elena stared into her mug as if it held answers. It was supposed to be perfect. The engagement party. Four Seasons ballroom. 200 guests. Chicago's business elite toasting Cameron and me. She laughed bitterly. I'd been planning it for months, every detail perfect. Marcus waited, giving her space to continue. I went to check on the coat room. We'd had some confusion with the attendant, and I found Cameron with Melissa. The name meant nothing to Marcus, but Elena's voice when she said it told him everything. My best friend since college. My maid of honor. They were... She stopped, unable or unwilling to finish the sentence. 7 years. Cameron and I were together for 7 years. Apparently, they'd been seeing each other for 2 of them. God, Elena. Everyone knew. Her voice hardened. That's what kills me. Everyone at that party knew except me. I could see it in their faces when I left. The pity, the schadenfreude. Poor Elena Torres, so brilliant at business, so stupid in love. Marcus moved to sit beside her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. They're idiots, all of them. I got in my car, started driving, had no idea where I was going, and somehow, she gestured around his modest apartment. I ended up here. Why? The question hung between them. Why his door? Why not her penthouse? Why not any of the dozens of people in her wealthy, connected world? Elena met his eyes. Do you remember the Harrison case? 2 years ago? Marcus nodded slowly. David Harrison, the former CFO, the sexual harassment investigation that had nearly destroyed Marcus's career. You were the only one who reported it, Elena said. Every person in that building knew what Harrison was doing to Sarah Kim. Everyone saw, but only you said something. It was the right thing to do. It cost you 2 promotions, made you enemies. Harrison had friends on the board. They made sure you paid for it. Marcus shrugged. Still the right thing? That's why I'm here. Because when I got in my car tonight, covered in humiliation and betrayal, I realized something. Elena's voice cracked. I have hundreds of contacts, thousands of professional relationships, but I couldn't think of a single person I actually trusted. Except you. You barely know me. I know you stood up when it mattered. I know you risked your career to protect someone weaker. I know you've worked under me for 3 years and never once tried to use that Harrison case to manipulate me or ask for favors. She wiped her eyes. I know that when I needed to find one decent human being in this city, my instincts brought me to your door. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a recognition of kinship, of shared values in a world that often punished them. Yesterday, Elena continued, in the conference room, the quarterly projections meeting. Marcus remembered. Elena had been sharp, almost cruel, tearing into the marketing team for numbers that weren't their fault. He'd watched his colleagues shrink under her anger, none of them willing to push back. Finally, Marcus had stood. Ms. Torres, with respect, you're letting stress cloud your judgment. You're better than this. The room had gone silent. Nobody challenged Elena Torres. She'd stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. You're right, I apologize. Let's revisit these numbers tomorrow with fresh eyes. You were the only one brave enough to tell me I was wrong, Elena said now. Not because you wanted to embarrass me, but because you cared about the work, about doing it right. You are better than that. You're the best CEO I've ever worked for. You actually care about people, not just profits. Say that again. Marcus looked at her confused. What? That I'm a good CEO, but look at me when you say it. Something in her voice made his pulse quicken. An intensity, a need to be seen, really seen. He turned to face her fully, meeting her red-rimmed eyes. You're a good leader, Elena. You're making that company better. More ethical, more human. Don't let one bad night make you forget that. The air between them felt charged, electric. For a moment, Marcus thought she might close the distance between them. Thought he might want her to. Then reality crashed back. His boss, his daughter sleeping down the hall, his dead wife's photo in the kitchen. All the reasons this was a terrible idea. Elena must have felt it too because she pulled back, setting down her mug. I should go. This was inappropriate. It was human. There's a difference, She stood, moving toward the door. Marcus grabbed her coat, now mostly dry, and handed it to her. Thank you, Elena said, for the hot chocolate, for the kindness, for not judging me. Nothing to judge. At the door, she paused. Marcus, don't tell anyone at work about tonight. Please, it could be misunderstood. Of course. She nodded, then stepped out into the night. The storm had passed, leaving only a light drizzle and the clean smell of rain-washed streets. Marcus watched her walk to her car, a Porsche that probably cost more than he made in 3 years. She looked back once, gave a small wave, then drove away. He locked the door and leaned against it, trying to process what had just happened. His CEO had shown up at midnight, broken and vulnerable. His daughter had made her hot chocolate. And somewhere in the chaos, Marcus had crossed an invisible line. He checked on Maya, who was sprawling across her bed, one arm hanging off the side, mouth open in deep sleep. Perfect and innocent and trusting. What did I just do, princess? He whispered. Outside, across the street, Marcus didn't notice the black sedan parked in the shadows. Didn't see the camera flash. Didn't know that someone had documented Elena Torres leaving his apartment building at 2 in the morning. Didn't know that in 6 weeks, that photograph would be used as a weapon. Monday morning arrived with the subtle menace of a gathering storm. Marcus went through his routine with mechanical precision. 6:30 wake up, breakfast with Maya, her chattering filling the kitchen with light, braiding her hair, his fingers moving through the familiar patterns Patricia had taught him. Each movement was a meditation, a moment of grace before the day demanded his attention. Daddy, is Miss Torres your girlfriend? Marcus's hand stilled. No, baby. She's my boss. She just needed a friend. Oh, Maya sounded disappointed. She was nice and sad. I liked her. She liked you too. If she needs more friends, she can come back. I'll make her into hot chocolate again. Marcus kissed the top of his daughter's head. You've got a big heart, princess. Don't ever lose that. The drop-off at Riverside Academy was quick. Maya ran to join her friends, her backpack bouncing, ponytail swinging. Marcus watched until she disappeared into the building, this daily act of faith. Trusting the world to keep his daughter safe for 8 hours. His phone buzzed, a text from his mother. Doctor appointment tomorrow. Can you drive me? Insurance being difficult with new insulin. Marcus closed his eyes. Patricia's diabetes had been manageable for years. Now it was getting worse, requiring newer medications, constant monitoring. Each month brought fresh bills, new hoops to jump through. He typed back, Of course, Mama. What time? 10 a.m. Love you, baby. Love you too. Ashford Technologies rose 37 floors above Chicago's downtown, all glass and steel and ambition. Marcus had worked there for 6 years, starting as a junior analyst, working his way up through pure competence. He knew the company's financial DNA better than most executives, could spot irregularities in spreadsheets the way Patricia could spot when he was hiding something. But today, walking through the gleaming lobby, Marcus felt the change immediately. People were clustered in groups, voices low and urgent. The usual Monday morning energy was replaced by something darker. Anticipation, gossip, the particular electricity that comes when drama hits a workplace. Lisa Chen, his assistant, intercepted him before he reached the elevator. She was 29, sharp as broken glass, with an MBA from Northwestern and loyalty Marcus had never quite understood. She'd been offered better positions, more money, but she stayed. Marcus, thank God. Lisa grabbed his arm, pulling him toward an empty conference room. We need to talk, now. What's going on? Lisa closed the door, her expression grim. Cameron Blake showed up this morning. Elena's ex. He caused a massive scene in the lobby. Marcus felt his stomach drop. What kind of scene? Security had to remove him. He was screaming about betrayal, about Elena ruining his career, about how she'd regret crossing him. Lisa pulled out her phone, showing him a shaky video someone had recorded. It's already on social media. 10,000 views. The video showed Cameron, disheveled and wild, being restrained by 2 security guards. His voice carried clearly. She's a vindictive bitch. She'll destroy anyone who crosses her. Ask her subordinates. Ask the people she's sleeping with. Marcus felt sick. That last line wasn't random. Someone had told Cameron about Friday night. There's more, Lisa said quietly. Emergency board meeting. Started at 8 a.m. Richard Ashford called it. About what? About Elena. They're calling it a leadership review. But Marcus, Lisa met his eyes. They're trying to force her out. This has been brewing for months. The Cameron thing is just the excuse they needed. Marcus sank into a chair. Why would they want her gone? She's doubled the stock price in 3 years. Because she's been pushing changes they hate. Profit sharing with employees, transparency initiatives, diversity requirements, killing the Tech merger. Lisa lowered her voice. That merger would have made the board members millions in stock options. Elena blocked it because it would have meant laying off 800 people. She chose workers over profit. She chose ethics over greed. And Richard Ashford doesn't forgive that. Marcus's mind raced, piecing together implications. Richard Ashford was the board chairman, old money, connected to every power structure in Chicago. He'd been with the company since before Elena took over. Represented the old guard, the men who saw business as war and workers as casualties. Where is she now? Marcus asked. Officially? On administrative leave pending review. Lisa's expression darkened. Unofficially? They've locked her out of everything. Email, servers, office. She can't even access her own files. That's not protocol. Nothing about this is protocol. This is a corporate coup, Marcus. They're using Elena's personal scandal to justify removing a CEO they've wanted gone for months. Marcus stood, pacing. I need to see her. Bad idea. They're watching everyone close to her. Lisa hesitated. There's something else. You got a promotion this morning. Email went out at 7 a.m. You're now interim senior financial officer. The words hit him like cold water. What? Congratulations. 30% raise, new office, direct report to Richard. Lisa's tone made it clear she saw this for what it was. Interesting timing, don't you think? Marcus understood immediately. They were buying his silence, promoting him to create obligation, making sure he wouldn't rock the boat during Elena's removal. I didn't ask for this. No one's asking what you want. They're making moves. Lisa moved closer. Marcus, be careful. Richard's dangerous. He doesn't fight fair, and anyone who stands between him and what he wants gets destroyed. I'm not afraid of Richard Ashford. Maybe you should be. You have a daughter, a mother with medical bills. They know where you're vulnerable. The threat was implicit but clear. Get in line or get hurt. Marcus's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Please don't tell anyone about Friday. It could be misunderstood. Elena, using a burner phone, not wanting this traced. He typed back. Are you okay? The response took a minute. No, but I will be. Thank you for asking. Marcus stared at his phone, at those simple words that carried so much weight. She was alone, isolated, under attack from people who'd been waiting for their moment to strike. And he had a choice to make. Take the promotion, keep his head down, protect his family, or stand up again. For someone who couldn't stand alone, the answer should have been obvious. The smart play, the safe play. But Marcus kept hearing Maya's voice. Daddy, you always do what's right. He looked up at Lisa. I need to get to Richard's office. Oh, Marcus, don't. I'm not going to let them do this to her. She's the best thing that's happened to this company. The most ethical leader we've had. Ethics don't matter when power decides to move. Then maybe it's time someone reminded power about consequences. Lisa grabbed his arm. Think about Maya, about your mother. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. It became my fight the moment they promoted me to keep me quiet. Marcus gently removed her hand. I've spent 3 years working for Elena Torres. I've seen how she leads, how she treats people, how she makes decisions that cost her personally but protect workers. If I stay silent now, what does that make me? Employed, safe, solvent, compromised, complicit, cowardly. Marcus headed for the door. Teresa used to say that character is what you do when it costs you something. Well, this is going to cost me, but at least I'll still have my character. He left before Lisa could argue further, heading for the executive floor. The elevator ride gave him time to second-guess himself, time to calculate what he was risking. The elevator doors opened onto the 37th floor. Plush carpet, original art on the walls, the physical manifestation of money and power. Richard Ashford's office sat at the corner, windows overlooking Lake Michigan. Marcus approached the executive assistant, a woman named Diane who'd been there longer than anyone could remember. "I need to see Mr. Ashford." Diane looked up, her expression unreadable. "He's busy. It's urgent. He has back-to-back meetings all day." Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Diane, please. 5 minutes. That's all I need." Something in his tone must have reached her because she picked up her phone, murmured something, then nodded. 5 minutes. But Marcus? Be careful in there. Richard's office was exactly what Marcus expected. Massive desk, leather chairs, the kind of space designed to intimidate. Richard himself sat behind his desk, silver-haired and perfectly groomed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. "Marcus," Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I was hoping you'd stop by. Congratulations on the promotion." "I didn't come here about that." "No." Richard leaned back, steepling his fingers. "What did you come here about?" "This is wrong, what you're doing to Elena. It's wrong." The smile vanished. "Mr. Hayes, I understand you may feel some loyalty to Ms. Torres, but the board has concerns about her leadership." "Concerns or agenda? She's tripled stock value in 3 years. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high. We're profitable and ethical. What exactly is concerning?" "Her judgment, her emotional stability. Surely you've noticed the erratic behavior." "I've noticed a brilliant CEO pushing necessary changes, changes that benefit workers and long-term growth, changes that might not maximize short-term profits for board members." Richard's expression hardened. "Be very careful what you're implying, Mr. Hayes." "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Elena blocked the Synertech merger because it would have cost 800 jobs. That merger would have made you personally about 12 million in stock options. You've been doing homework. I'm a financial analyst. It's my job to see patterns." Marcus stepped closer. "And I see a pattern of a board chairman who wants to remove a CEO for being too ethical, who's using personal scandal as cover for corporate coup." Richard stood, his 6'3" frame designed to intimidate. But Marcus had faced insurgents in Fallujah. A corporate bully didn't scare him. "Marcus, I'm going to say this once. You're a talented analyst. You have a bright future here. But loyalty to Elena Torres will not serve you well." Richard's voice dropped, taking on a dangerous edge. "You have a daughter. A mother with significant medical needs. Riverside Academy costs, what, 6,000 a term? Patricia's medications run 300 a month? That adds up." The threat couldn't have been clearer. "Are you threatening my family?" "I'm reminding you of your responsibilities. You're a single father. You need this job. You need this promotion." Richard moved around the desk, his tone shifting to something almost paternal. "I like you, Marcus. You're smart, principled, the kind of man we want in leadership. But you need to learn when principle is worth the price. And if I don't think Elena should pay the price for your greed, then you'll pay it instead." Richard pulled a folder from his desk, sliding it across to Marcus. "Diane's retiring at the end of the quarter. We need a new CFO, someone with integrity, someone employees respect." Marcus opened the folder. Inside was a contract. Chief Financial Officer, 180,000 base salary, 50,000 signing bonus, full executive benefits including platinum health coverage. Patricia's medications would be covered. Maya's tuition would be a footnote. He could finally stop living paycheck to paycheck, one emergency away from disaster. "We're prepared to make you CFO, Marcus. Youngest in company history. Set you up for life." "In exchange for what?" Richard smiled. "Your perspective. You've worked closely with Elena. You've witnessed her instability, her erratic decision-making, her emotional volatility." He slid another document forward. "We just need someone credible to document concerns. Someone like you, known for integrity, making these observations would be quite compelling." Marcus read the statement. It was carefully worded, technically not lies, but presented to paint Elena as unstable, unfit, Dangerous. His signature would destroy her. You want me to betray her. I want you to be honest about what you've observed. In exchange, we secure your family's future. Richard's voice hardened. This is a generous offer, Marcus. Take the weekend. Think about it. But understand, this opportunity won't last, and neither will your current position if you choose poorly. Marcus looked at the contract, at the statement, at the man who thought everything had a price. I'll need time to consider. Monday morning, I'll expect your answer. Richard extended his hand. I hope you'll make the smart choice, for Maya's sake. Marcus didn't shake. He gathered the documents and left. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Marcus couldn't focus, couldn't think about anything except the decision ahead of him. By 5 p.m., he left early, needing to pick up Maya. She bounded into the car, full of stories about school, art class, lunch with friends, the simple joys of a 7-year-old whose biggest worry was whether she'd get to play kickball at recess. Daddy, you're quiet. Are you sad? Just thinking, Princess. About Miss Torres? Marcus glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Why would you say that? Because you have your worried face, the one you get when Grandma Patricia's sick, or when bills come. Maya kicked her feet against her car seat. Is Miss Torres okay? I don't know, baby. You should check on her. That's what friends do. At home, Marcus made dinner while Maya did homework at the kitchen table. Mac and cheese from a box, carrot sticks, the same rotation of simple meals he'd mastered in the 3 years since Teresa died. After Maya went to bed, Marcus sat at that same table, the documents spread before him, the contract, the statement, the choice. On one side, security, his daughter's education, his mother's health, a future without constant financial terror. On the other, his integrity, his values, the man he'd tried to be since Teresa's death, the father he wanted Maya to see. He picked up his phone, stared at it for a long moment, then called Elena's burner number. She answered on the third ring. Hello? They want me to betray you, and they're offering everything I need. Silence on the line. Then quietly, what are you going to do? I don't know, but I need to ask. What would you do if you had a child depending on you? Elena's voice was thick with emotion. I'd like to say I'd do the noble thing, but Marcus, I've never had a child depending on me. I don't know if I could resist that kind of pressure. They want me to sign a statement. Claims you're unstable, unfit to lead. It's all carefully worded lies. Would it be enough to remove me? Probably. I'm known for integrity. My word carries weight. Then they chose their weapon well. She let out a shaky breath. I won't ask you to sacrifice your family for me. I won't put that on you. But if I sign, I'm part of destroying something good. You've made that company better, more ethical, more human. And maybe that's not enough. Maybe in the real world, ethics lose. Teresa used to say that we teach our children more by what we do than what we say. Marcus's voice cracked. What am I teaching Maya if I do this? You're teaching her that you love her enough to do hard things, even things that hurt. Or I'm teaching her that principles are only worth keeping when they're convenient. They sat in silence, the weight of impossible choices hanging between them. Finally, Elena spoke. Whatever you decide, Marcus, I understand. I won't judge you, and I won't forget that you were kind to me when I needed it most. That's not enough. Sometimes kindness is all we get. Marcus hung up and sat in the dark kitchen. The contract glowed in the lamplight, promising salvation. The statement sat beside it, demanding compromise. On the refrigerator, Maya had hung a drawing from school. My hero daddy, in crayon letters. A stick figure man with a cape, holding hands with a smaller figure. Love rendered in primary colors and childhood faith. What kind of hero signs away his integrity for money? What kind of father risks his daughter's future for principle? Marcus put his head in his hands. There were no good answers, only impossible choices and the cold comfort of doing what you believed was right, even when it cost you everything. Saturday morning arrived too soon. Marcus woke to find Maya already up, attempting to make breakfast. The kitchen was a disaster. Eggshells in the pan, burnt toast smoking in the toaster. His daughter grinning proudly at the chaos. I wanted to help. Marcus pulled her into a hug, burying his face in her hair. You always help, princess, every single day. They cleaned up together, made proper breakfast, then settled on the couch. Maya curled against him, watching cartoons. Perfect and innocent and trusting. Daddy? Yeah, baby? Is something wrong? He should lie, should protect her from adult problems. But Teresa's voice echoed in his mind. Be honest with her, Marcus. Kids always know when you're lying. Daddy has to make a hard choice. About work. What kind of choice? How did you explain corporate corruption to a 7-year-old? How did you discuss the price of integrity? Someone wants me to say something mean about Miss Torres. Something that's not true. If I say it, we'll have more money. Things will be easier, but it would hurt her. A lot. Maya was quiet for a long moment, processing with that serious expression she got when thinking hard. What would Mommy say? The question broke something in Marcus. Tears he'd been holding back for days suddenly threatened to spill. She'd say, do what's right. Then that's easy. Maya looked up at him with complete faith. You always do what's right. That's what makes you a superhero. But baby, doing what's right might mean things get harder for us. I might lose my job. We might have to move. You might have to change schools. Maya considered this with the gravity of a judge. Then she hugged him tighter. That's okay. We'll still have each other. And Mommy says love is more important than stuff. Remember? God, when had his daughter become so wise? You're right. Your mom was right. Marcus kissed the top of her head. Thanks, princess. Can we invite Miss Torres over again? She was sad. I want to make her happy. Maybe someday. They spent the rest of the day together. Went to the park, got ice cream, simple joys that money couldn't buy and principles couldn't diminish. That evening, after Maya was asleep, Marcus sat at his kitchen table one last time with the documents. The contract that would solve everything. The statement that would destroy Elena. He thought about Teresa. About the woman he'd loved who'd taught him that character wasn't convenient. It was constant. About her last days when she'd made him promise to raise Maya right. To show her what integrity looked like. He thought about Elena, brilliant and broken, who'd trusted him with her vulnerability. Who'd shown up at his door believing he was someone who could be trusted. He thought about Maya, who believed her father was a hero, who thought doing right was simple because she'd never been taught that it shouldn't be. Marcus picked up his phone and texted Elena. I'm not signing. We're doing this the hard way. Her response came immediately. The hard way? We prove Richard's guilty. We take him down properly. That could take weeks. Richard won't wait. Then we better work fast. Are you in? A pause, then. I'm in. Thank you, Marcus. Don't thank me yet. This might get ugly. It already is ugly. At least now I'm not facing it alone. Marcus set down his phone and did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He opened the bottom drawer of his desk, the one he'd been avoiding since Teresa's funeral. Inside was a box of mementos from his Marine days, his dog tags, unit photos, and a small thumb drive labeled insurance from his FBI days when he'd done forensic accounting for white-collar crimes. Information he'd kept just in case. Evidence of patterns, connections. The kind of data that could bring down empires if used correctly. Richard Ashford thought Marcus Hayes was just a mid-level analyst, a single father too scared to fight back. He was about to learn otherwise. Across the city, in his North Shore mansion, Richard Ashford sat in his study. His phone buzzed with a text from one of his board allies. Hayes declined the offer, moving to Plan B. Richard looked at the whiteboard in his office, names connected by lines. Elena Torres crossed out in red. Marcus Hayes circled. And beside his name, a photo of Maya pulled from the company family day files. He typed back a single word, initiate. Then he made a call. I need comprehensive files on Marcus Hayes, financial, personal, everything, and I want surveillance on the daughter. School, aftercare, routes, make it subtle. The voice on the other end confirmed. How far are we taking this? Richard looked at the photo of Maya, gap-toothed and smiling. He felt a brief flicker of distaste. He didn't enjoy threatening children. But business was business, and sometimes you had to use the leverage available. As far as necessary, Hayes needs to understand that there are consequences for defiance. Make sure he knows we can reach anyone he loves. The call ended. Richard poured himself a scotch, looking out at the Chicago skyline. 30 floors below, lights twinkled like stars. Each one a person living their small life, unaware of the forces that shaped their world. Marcus Hayes would learn. They all learned eventually. Power always won. Ethics were luxuries for people who could afford them. And single fathers making $87,000 a year couldn't afford such luxuries. Richard smiled into his drink, confident in his victory. He had no idea that Marcus Hayes had already decided that some things were worth more than safety, that some battles had to be fought regardless of the cost, that sometimes the most dangerous opponent was the one with nothing left to lose except his integrity. The storm was coming, and this time it wouldn't be rain. The alliance formed in darkness, built on whispered conversations and encrypted messages. Marcus sat in Elena's penthouse for the first time 3 nights after his decision. The city spread below them like a circuit board of light and shadow. The space surprised him. He'd expected cold minimalism, the aesthetic of someone married to work. Instead, he found warmth. Books lining shelves, plants in every corner, photos of Elena with her father, a kind-faced man whose eyes held the same intelligence as his daughter's. He started this company with 3 employees and a dream, Elena said, noticing Marcus studying the photos. Built it on the principle that you could be profitable and ethical, that taking care of workers wasn't charity, it was strategy. What would he think of what's happening now? He'd tell me to fight, to never let men like Richard Ashford corrupt what he built. She turned from the window. So that's what we're doing. Fighting. They'd transformed her dining table into a war room, financial documents spread across expensive mahogany, timelines mapped on poster board. Lisa had smuggled files out of the office at great personal risk, USB drives hidden in her purse, copying documents during late nights when security assumed she was just another dedicated employee burning midnight oil. Margaret Winters, the board member with integrity, had provided legal guidance, phone calls at odd hours, advice disguised as casual conversation. She couldn't be seen helping Elena directly, not yet, but she could point them toward loopholes and procedures. Marcus stood at the table now, studying 3 years of financial records. His forensic accounting training kicked in, that particular gift for seeing patterns where others saw noise. Numbers told stories if you knew their language. Here, he said, pointing to a line item, Meridian Advisory, consulting fees. Elena leaned over his shoulder, close enough that he caught her perfume. Something subtle and expensive. Focus, he told himself. I've seen those entries, every quarter. Richard said they were routine. Routine doesn't mean legitimate. Marcus pulled up another spreadsheet, fingers flying across the keyboard. Watch, Meridian gets paid $50,000 every 6 weeks, like clockwork, for 3 years. Maybe they're good consultants. Then where are the reports? Consulting firms generate documentation, presentations, analysis. Where's the work product? Elena's eyes widened. There isn't any. Because Meridian isn't real. It's a shell company. Someone's getting paid $50,000 every 6 weeks for services never rendered. Marcus did quick math in his head. That's roughly $400,000 a year, times 3 years, $1.2 million. Richard? Can't prove it yet. Shell companies hide ownership. But look at the approval signatures. Marcus highlighted a column. Every single payment approved by Richard Ashford. Some countersigned by Diane Foster, the CFO who's supposed to be watching for exactly this kind of fraud. Elena sank into a chair. They've been stealing from my father's company, right under my nose. Not just stealing, systematic embezzlement. And that's just what I found in 3 hours. Marcus met her eyes. If I had deeper access, if I could see board-level financials, offshore accounts, I'd bet my life this is bigger, much bigger. How much bigger? Marcus thought about the patterns he'd seen, the frequency of payments, the sophistication of the hiding. 10 million, maybe more. The number hung in the air between them. Not just theft, not just betrayal, a conspiracy that reached into the company's foundations. We need proof, Elena said. Undeniable, public, can't be explained away proof. I know, and I know where to find it. Where? Marcus pulled up an email from 6 months ago, buried in archived files Lisa had copied. Richard Ashford, responding to an IT question about data security. I maintain my own private server at my residence for sensitive board communications. More secure than company systems. Elena read the email twice. He keeps records at home? If communications about embezzlement exist, they're there. Emails to Cayman banks, offshore account details, everything we need. That's breaking and entering. That's gathering evidence. Marcus closed the laptop. Question is, can we access his house? Elena was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then her face changed. His annual charity gala, 3 weeks from now, raises money for the Children's Hospital. Very public, very prestigious, 500 guests. And you're invited? I was, before everything. But Margaret Winters still is. Board members always attend, and she's allowed a +1. Understanding dawned. You want to break into his house during a party full of witnesses? I want to access his study while he's distracted, while security is focused on managing 500 guests, while we're hiding in plain sight. Marcus couldn't help but smile. Bold, risky, exactly the kind of move Richard wouldn't anticipate. I'll need time to prepare, study the layout, plan entry and exit routes. I'll get you blueprints, donated to Historical Society when he renovated. Public record. Elena stood, pacing with renewed energy. This could work, Marcus. This could actually work. Or it could get us arrested. Then we better be careful. She stopped, facing him. Are you sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. Richard will know we're coming for him. Marcus thought about Maya, about Patricia, about all the safe reasons to walk away. Then he thought about what kind of man he wanted to be, what kind of father. I'm sure we end this, for good. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus lived a double life. By day, he was the model employee, attending meetings, reviewing reports, playing the role of grateful promoted analyst who knew his place. Richard watched him carefully, but saw only compliance. By night, Marcus became something else. The Marine who'd coordinated operations in hostile territory. The forensic accountant who'd taken down corrupt executives for the FBI. Skills he'd buried after Teresa's death, convinced he'd never need them again. He studied Richard's mansion from satellite imagery, memorized floor plans, identified the study location. 3rd floor, northeast corner, overlooking Lake Michigan. Windows that open. Security that focused outward, not inward. Lisa continued her dangerous work, copying files, documenting patterns. She asked no questions, demanded no explanations, just showed up every few days with new information, her expression growing grimmer each time. Richard's moving money, she said one evening, meeting Marcus in an empty parking garage like characters from a spy film. Big transfers, to accounts I can't trace. He knows something's coming. How much? 2 million just this week. He's getting ready to run or ready to fight. Either way, he's preparing. Marcus added this to their growing evidence file. Every piece painted the same picture. Systematic theft, conspiracy, corruption that reached through every level of Ashford's board. The personal connection between Marcus and Elena grew in those long nights of investigation. Shared Chinese takeout at 3 in the morning. Coffee that had gone cold hours ago. Conversations that started about financial fraud and ended about life, loss, hope. Tell me about Teresa, Elena said one night. Marcus pulled out his phone, showed her pictures, his wife smiling, holding baby Maya. Teresa in a hospital bed, thin but radiant, joy fighting through the pain. She was an accountant too. That's how we met, at a seminar on tax fraud. Romantic, right? He smiled at the memory. She made me laugh, made me want to be better. And when she got sick, his voice caught. She made me promise to raise Maya right, to show her what integrity looks like. You're honoring that promise. I'm trying. Some days I'm not sure I'm succeeding. Elena touched his hand, a gesture of comfort that felt like more. Maya thinks you're a superhero. Children don't lie about things like that. What about you? Marcus turned the question back. Why no kids? No family? I chose work, chose building something that mattered. Thought there'd be time later. She laughed bitterly. Classic mistake. Postponing life until you've achieved enough. Whatever enough means. There's still time. Is there? I'm 33. Single. My reputation in tatters. My company being stolen. Some legacy. Your company's being stolen because you did the right thing. Because you chose workers over profits. Chose ethics over easy money. Marcus squeezed her hand. That's a legacy, Elena. One your father would be proud of. The moment stretched between them. Possibility and danger mixed in equal measure. Then Elena's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. A text from Margaret. Gala confirmed. You're my +1. Wear something nice. Elena showed Marcus the message. 3 days. You ready? No. But we're doing it anyway. The preparation intensified. Marcus didn't own formal wear beyond a decade-old suit bought for Teresa's funeral. Elena insisted on taking him shopping, an experience that made him profoundly uncomfortable. Stores where a shirt cost $300. Salespeople who measured and adjusted and studied him like he was a sculpture. This is too much, Marcus protested as Elena approved a tuxedo that fit him perfectly. Consider it equipment. You can't infiltrate a high society event in a JCPenney suit. I like my JCPenney suit. I know you do. That's why you're a good man. She adjusted his bow tie, her fingers lingering at his collar. But tonight you're a high society guest. Act the part. Patricia watched Maya the evening of the gala, asking no questions about why Marcus needed childcare on a Saturday night. Just hugged him tight and whispered, "Be careful, baby. Whatever you're doing, be careful." Marcus picked Elena up at 7. She emerged from her building in a midnight blue gown that made his breath catch. Simple, elegant, devastating. You clean up nice, Mr. Hayes. You're beautiful. The words came out before he could stop them. Elena smiled, genuinely pleased, and took his arm. Let's go rob a corporate criminal. Richard Ashford's North Shore estate sprawled across 5 acres, the kind of property that required staff just to maintain. The mansion itself was Gothic revival, all stone and drama, purchased from old Chicago money. Tonight it blazed with light, hundreds of guests arriving in town cars and Teslas, designer gowns and borrowed jewelry. Marcus and Elena arrived with Margaret Winters, who'd coach them on behavior. Smile, small talk, blend. Richard can't know you're working together. The ballroom was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, orchestra playing Mozart, waiters circulating with champagne and canapes. Chicago's elite in their natural habitat, discussing mergers and market trends between sips of Dom Perignon. Cameron Blake stood near the bar. Marcus felt Elena tense beside him. Her ex-fiancé looked prosperous and smug, a new woman on his arm. Younger, blonde, probably also unaware she was dating a corporate spy. Cameron's eyes found Elena. His smirk was poisonous. Elena, didn't expect to see you here. I have every right to attend. Do you? I heard you were on leave. Mental health concerns. His tone made it an insult. Marcus stepped forward, his body language protective. Maybe you should concern yourself with your own mental health. Seems like cheating requires some serious character issues. Cameron's face darkened. Who's this? Your rebound? This is Marcus Hayes, a colleague, and someone who understands loyalty, unlike some people. The tension crackled. Other guests were noticing, whispers spreading through the crowd. Elena touched Marcus's arm. He's not worth it. Let's get some air. They moved toward the terrace, leaving Cameron fuming, but Marcus noticed something. Richard Ashford watching from across the room, his expression calculating. They'd been made. Richard knew they were working together. We need to move now, Marcus whispered, while everyone's distracted by the drama. Elena nodded. They separated, executing the plan. Elena would create a diversion downstairs. Marcus would slip away to the study. They had maybe 20 minutes before security noticed either of them missing. Marcus moved through the mansion like a ghost, using service hallways he'd memorized from blueprints. Staff rushed past him, focused on serving guests, not noticing another man in a tuxedo. 3rd floor, northeast corner. The door to Richard's study stood before him. Locked, of course. Marcus pulled out a tool he'd bought from a military surplus store. Tension wrench and pick, simple but effective. His hands remembered the movements from Marine training. Break into rooms where insurgents hid, where intelligence waited. The lock clicked. Marcus slipped inside, closing the door behind him. Richard's study was exactly what he expected. Massive desk, leather chairs, but also technology. A server rack in the corner, lights blinking. The private network Elena's email had mentioned. Marcus just moved to the computer, fingers flying. He'd rehearsed this, knew exactly what to look for. Password protected naturally. He tried variations. Richard's birthday, daughter's name. Nothing worked. Think, what would a narcissist use? He tried the founding date of Ashford Technologies. The system unlocked. Bingo. Marcus inserted an encrypted USB drive, starting the download. Gigabytes of data, emails, financial records. Everything Richard had thought was safely hidden. 2 minutes. 3. The progress bar crawled. Footsteps in the hallway. Marcus dove behind the desk, holding his breath. The door opened. 2 people entered. Richard Ashford and Diane Foster. The Hayes problem, Diane said. He didn't take the offer. I'm aware. Richard's voice was ice. We'll need another approach. The daughter? Really, Richard? I don't want to hurt a child. But if Hayes needs motivation, Patricia Hayes has expensive medical needs. What if her insurance had complications? Claims denied. Coverage questions. Marcus recorded on his phone, barely breathing. That's extortion. That's business. We can't let one analyst ruin years of planning. Richard moved to pour a drink. The Meridian transfers are complete. 12.4 million in Cayman accounts. Once Elena's removed and Hayes is neutralized, we'll phase out the progressive nonsense. Reverse the Cyanotech decision. Cash out our options. 12 million. Marcus had underestimated by 2 million. And if Hayes still won't cooperate, then we make sure he can't work anywhere. Patent theft allegations. Corporate espionage. Whatever ruins him professionally. Richard's voice hardened. He chose Elena Torres over his daughter's future. That's a mistake he'll regret. They left. Marcus stayed hidden for another minute, his heart hammering. Then he checked the computer. Download complete. He had everything. Emails to offshore banks, communications about Elena's removal, evidence of systematic embezzlement, Richard's voice on recording, admitting to everything. Marcus pocketed the USB drive and headed for the door. Retraced his steps through service hallways. Found Elena on the terrace. We need to leave now. They thanked Margaret, made excuses, headed for the parking lot. Marcus's hands shook as he opened the car door. Did you get it? Elena asked. Everything. Emails, financial records, and a recording of Richard admitting to 12 million in embezzlement and threatening my family. Elena's eyes widened. 12 million? It's bigger than we thought. Bigger than anyone knew. Marcus started the car. We have enough to destroy him, Elena. Enough to bring down his whole network. They pulled onto Lakeshore Drive, heading back toward the city. Relief flooded through Marcus. They'd done it, actually pulled it off. Then he noticed the headlights. Black SUV, 3 cars back, maintaining perfect distance. We're being followed. Elena turned. Are you sure? 3 lane changes, still there, same distance. Marcus's training kicked in. Richard's security, he must have reviewed camera footage, saw me enter his study. What do we do? Hold on. Marcus accelerated, weaving through traffic. The SUV matched his moves, closer now, aggressive. They hit a red light. Marcus ran it, horns blaring. The SUV followed. Marcus! Elena's voice was fear and adrenaline mixed. I know what I'm doing. Trust me. The SUV pulled alongside them. Driver's side window down. Marcus saw the man's face. Professional. Cold. The SUV swerved, trying to force them off the road. Marcus braked hard, letting the SUV overshoot, then accelerated around it, taking a sharp right down a side street. The SUV tried to follow, but Marcus knew Chicago's grid better. Another turn, another, using residential streets, one-way alleys. Finally, he pulled into a parking garage, killed the lights. They sat in darkness, listening. The SUV's engine faded into the distance. Elena was shaking. They tried to run us off the road. They know we have the evidence. They're not playing corporate games anymore. What now? Marcus pulled out his phone, checking the recording. Richard's voice clear as crystal. We have 24 hours, maybe less. Richard will move to discredit this evidence, claim it was obtained illegally. Have lawyers ready. Then what's our play? We need allies. Someone Richard can't intimidate or buy off. Marcus thought fast. The board. We present directly to them full evidence. Public setting. Public. Force their hand. Richard controls 5 votes. Then we flip someone, or we get undeniable proof that forces even his allies to abandon him. They drove to Patricia's house, needing somewhere safe. His mother opened the door, took one look at their faces and asked no questions. Just made coffee and gave them space. Maya was asleep in the guest room. Marcus checked on her, watching her peaceful face. His daughter innocent and trusting, with no idea how close they'd come to disaster. "I'm sorry, Princess," he whispered. "This is going to get harder before it gets better." In Patricia's living room, Marcus and Elena spread out the evidence. The USB drive contained hundreds of files. They reviewed them systematically, building a timeline, so 3 years of theft. Systematic, sophisticated. Richard had been planning this since before Elena became CEO, waiting for his moment. "Here," Elena said, pointing to an email chain. "Cameron Blake. Payments of $50,000 quarterly. Contract dated 2 years ago." Marcus read the emails. His stomach turned. Cameron had been paid $250,000 to get close to Elena, to feed information to Center Tech, to set her up for public humiliation when the time came. "The affair wasn't spontaneous," Elena said quietly. "It was purchased." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I'm glad to know. Makes it easier to let go." She pulled up another file. "Look at this. Board meeting minutes discussing, quote, the Elena problem, planning her removal months before Cameron's betrayal. They found more. Communications with journalists, paying for negative coverage, doctored photos, ready to be released if needed, character assassination planned with military precision. Richard Ashford had built an empire of corruption, and he'd protected it with threats, bribery, and blackmail. "We need someone from the inside," Marcus said. "Someone who can testify, corroborate what we found." "Who? Everyone's either with Richard or too scared to oppose him." Marcus thought about the conversation he'd overheard. Diane Foster's voice, uncomfortable with threatening children. Diane, she's the weak link. She's been his accomplice for years. But she has limits. She didn't like talking about using my family as leverage. Marcus stood pacing. If we approach it right, give her immunity, she might flip. Or she might warn Richard. That's the risk, but we don't have many options. Marcus checked his watch, 3 in the morning. "We approach her tomorrow, early, before Richard has time to prepare his defense." Elena nodded, exhausted. "You should get some sleep." "So should you." "Can't, too wired." She smiled weakly. "My brain won't shut off." Marcus understood. The adrenaline crash, the fear and exhilaration mixed. They'd crossed a line tonight. No going back. Patricia appeared in the doorway. "You two need rest. Marcus, take the couch. Elena, guest room. Whatever trouble you're in, it'll still be there tomorrow." "Mama, we're fine." "Boy, I've known you 36 years. I know when you're lying." Patricia fixed him with that mother stare. "You're in deep, both of you, so take a few hours. Catch your breath. Because whatever comes next, you'll need your strength." She was right. Marcus showed Elena to the guest room, then collapsed on the couch. Sleep came quickly, exhaustion, overwhelming anxiety. He dreamed of Teresa, of her final days when she'd made him promise to raise Maya with integrity, to show her what courage looked like. "I'm trying, baby," he whispered in the dream. "I hope I'm doing this right." Teresa smiled. "You're doing exactly what you should, being the man I fell in love with." Morning came too soon. 6 a.m. Marcus woke to find Maya sitting on the edge of the couch, studying him. "You had a bad dream, Daddy. You were talking to Mommy." He pulled her into a hug, just remembering her, making sure I'm keeping my promises. "Are you?" "I'm trying, Princess." "Then you are, because you always keep your promises." Maya hugged him tighter. "Is Miss Elena okay? Grandma says she's sleeping here." "She needed a safe place, we both did." "Are you in trouble?" Marcus thought about lying, protecting her innocence. But Maya deserved better. "Some people at work are doing bad things. Miss Elena and I are trying to stop them. It might get difficult." "Like when you stopped the mean man who was hurting that lady, the one you told me about." The Harrison case. Marcus had explained it in age-appropriate terms, standing up for people who couldn't stand up for themselves. Just like that. Then you're being a superhero again. Maya's smile was pure faith. Superheroes always win, Daddy. Not always, baby. Sometimes they lose. But they try anyway. That's what makes them heroes. God, his daughter was wise. Elena emerged an hour later looking exhausted but determined. Over Patricia's breakfast, they planned the approach to Diane Foster. I'll come with you, Elena said. She might respond better to me, CEO to CFO. Or she might see it as intimidation. Let me try alone first. Marcus finished his coffee. You're the target. Diane might be more willing to talk without you there. They compromised. Marcus would approach Diane at her home. Elena would wait nearby. If he gave the signal, she'd join. Diane Foster lived in Evanston, a restored Victorian that screamed old money. Marcus arrived at 9 a.m. knowing she'd be home. Sunday mornings were sacred to Diane. Church, then brunch, then gardening. Like clockwork. She answered the door in casual clothes, her surprise evident. Marcus, what are you doing here? I need 5 minutes, please. Something in his voice must have convinced her because she stepped aside. 5 minutes. They sat in her formal living room surrounded by antiques and doilies. Diane crossed her arms, defensive. I heard you at the gala, Marcus said. In Richard's study. I was there. I heard everything. Color drained from Diane's face. You were hiding? I was gathering evidence. He pulled out his phone, played the recording. Diane's voice, Richard's threats, the admission of embezzlement. She closed her eyes. Oh, God. 12 million, Diane. Systematic theft for 3 years. And now Richard's threatening my family. My 6-year-old daughter. My elderly mother. I didn't want this. I didn't know it would go this far. But you participated, signed off on fraudulent payments, helped hide the evidence. Marcus leaned forward. You're an accessory to major corporate fraud. The SEC would have a field day with this. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a choice. Help us, testify, give evidence. In exchange, we'll argue for immunity. You cooperate, you might avoid prison. And if I don't, then you go down with Richard. And unlike him, you don't have 50 million in offshore accounts to pay for defense lawyers. Diane was quiet for a long time. Marcus watched emotions play across her face. Fear, calculation, something like relief. I've been CFO for 20 years, she finally said. Worked my way up when women weren't supposed to reach executive level. And this is how it ends, helping a criminal steal from the company I helped build. It doesn't have to end that way. Help us stop him. Richard will destroy me. Richard's going to prison or fleeing the country. Either was his threat is ending. Marcus pulled out his phone. We have evidence. We have recordings. We have financial trails. All we need is someone from the inside to confirm it, to show the board that this is real. Diane stood, moving to the window. Sunlight caught silver in her hair, needs she had tried to hide with expensive dye. What do you need from me? Relief flooded through Marcus. Everything. Documents Richard kept you from sharing, communications, board meeting minutes. Your testimony about his instructions. He'll know I betrayed him. He already suspects everyone. Better to act first. Diane turned back. There's a board meeting tomorrow. Emergency session. Richard called it to finalize Elena's removal, vote her out permanently, install interim leadership. Perfect. We present evidence there. Public, witnesses, force their hand. You'll need 7 votes to remove Richard. Can we get them? Diane considered. With my testimony, with this evidence, maybe. 3 board members are absolutely Richard's. 2 more are scared. The rest, she nodded slowly. The rest might turn if the evidence is undeniable. Then let's make it undeniable. They spent the next 3 hours going through everything. Diane provided documentation Marcus couldn't have accessed. Emails showing Richard's instructions, board minutes revealing the conspiracy, a paper trail that connected every dot. Elena joined them eventually, her presence galvanizing Diane's resolve. The 2 women, both casualties of Richard's ambition, building the case that would bring him down. By evening, they had a presentation. Systematic, comprehensive, devastating. Margaret arrived to review it from a legal perspective. She'd been briefed by Elena, knew what was coming. "This is enough," Margaret said finally. "This is more than enough. Richard's allies will abandon him. They'll have to, or face prosecution themselves." "What about the illegally obtained evidence?" Elena asked. "Richard will argue we broke into his house. Actually, you attended a party as invited guests. What you happened to observe while there." Margaret smiled. "That's a gray area. And with Diane's testimony corroborating everything, the source becomes less relevant." They rehearsed, practiced responses, anticipated Richard's countermoves. Midnight found them exhausted but ready. Marcus drove Elena home, the city quiet around them. "Tomorrow changes everything," Elena said. "Are you scared?" "Terrified. You?" "Same." Marcus pulled up to her building. "But we're doing the right thing." Elena didn't get out immediately, just sat there looking at him in the dim light. "Marcus, when this is over, regardless of how it ends, I want you to know—" She trailed off, searching for words. "You gave me back something I'd lost. Faith that good people still exist. That integrity isn't just a word in mission statements. You gave me something too. A reason to be the man Teresa wanted me to be. The father Maya deserves." They sat in silence, the weight of tomorrow pressing down. Finally, Elena leaned over, kissed his cheek. Brief, chaste, full of meaning. "For luck, for courage. We'll need both." She got out, disappeared into her building. Marcus sat for another moment, touching his cheek where her lips had been. Then his phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "I know what you took. Return it by morning or face consequences. Consequences that extend to Maya Hayes, age 6, Riverside Academy, classroom 2B. The message included a photo. Maya at school, on the playground. Someone had been watching his daughter. Marcus's hands shook. Not with fear, with fury. Another text arrived. "Choose wisely, Mr. Hayes. Some battles aren't worth fighting." Marcus typed back a single sentence. "See you at the board meeting." Then he called Elena. "Richard just threatened Maya directly. Sent me photos from her school." "Oh my God. I'm done playing nice. Tomorrow we destroy him. Completely. No mercy. Marcus, he brought my daughter into this. He made it personal." Marcus's voice was cold as winter. "Tomorrow, Richard Ashford learns what happens when you threaten a Marine's family." He drove home through empty streets, his mind already planning. The board meeting would be Richard's last stand, his final moment of power, and Marcus would make sure everyone watching understood exactly what kind of man had been leading their company. Justice was coming. And this time it wouldn't be corporate or polite. It would be absolute. Monday morning arrived with the weight of Judgment Day. Marcus stood in his small bathroom at 5 a.m., staring at his reflection. The man looking back was different from the one who'd opened his door to Elena 6 weeks ago. Harder, more determined. Someone who'd chosen the difficult path and walked it without looking back. He thought about the threat. Maya's photo. The implicit promise of harm if he didn't back down. Richard Ashford had made a critical miscalculation. He thought threatening a man's family would make him surrender. He didn't understand that threatening a Marine's daughter turned caution into fury, hesitation into absolute resolve. Marcus put on his best suit, the one from Teresa's funeral that he'd worn maybe 3 times since. It felt appropriate. Today marked death. The death of Richard's power. The death of his own corporate career, possibly. Maybe the death of financial security. But some things mattered more than survival. Some battles had to be fought regardless of cost. Patricia was already awake, making breakfast. She took one look at her son and wrapped him in a hug. "Whatever happens today, I'm proud of you." "I might lose everything, Mama. My child, my reputation, possibly worse. You'll still have your integrity. You'll still have Maya. You'll still be the man your father and I raised." She held his face between her hands. "Material things come and go, baby. Character is forever." Maya emerged, sleepy and confused about the early morning activity. She climbed into Marcus's lap, sensing his tension. "Big day at work, Daddy." "The biggest. Are you scared?" Marcus thought about how to answer honestly. "Yes, but I'm doing it anyway." Maya hugged him tight. "That's what being brave means. Mommy told me." 7-year-old wisdom, simple and profound. Marcus held his daughter for a long moment, memorizing the feeling. Her weight, her trust, her absolute faith that her father would do what was right. Whatever happened today, he'd earn that faith. The drive to Ashford Technologies felt surreal. Same route he'd taken hundreds of times. Same buildings, same traffic patterns. But everything had changed. By tonight, his life would be unrecognizable. His phone buzzed. Elena. I'm already here. Third floor conference room. Margaret and Diane are with me. On my way. The parking garage felt like enemy territory now. Marcus took the elevator up, his Marine training kicking in. Assess threats, plan exits. Stay calm under pressure. The conference room was small, private, away from the main boardroom. Elena sat reviewing notes, her expression focused. Diane looked terrified but resolute. Margaret radiated quiet confidence. We ready? Marcus asked. Margaret nodded. As ready as we'll ever be. I've reviewed everything. The evidence is solid. Richard will fight, but he has no defense. He'll attack credibility, Diane said quietly. Mine especially. I'm a conspirator turned witness. Juries hate that. Board members aren't juries, Elena said. They're business people. They care about liability, about exposure. Once they see the scope of Richard's theft, they'll abandon him to save themselves. Marcus pulled out his laptop, double-checking the presentation. Every slide perfect. Every piece of evidence documented. 3 weeks of work condensed into 40 minutes that would determine everything. What if it's not enough? He asked. Then we go to the FBI anyway, Margaret said. Then we go public. Then we make enough noise that someone has to investigate. She met his eyes. But Marcus, it will be enough. Trust the evidence. Trust the truth. At 9:30, they moved to the boardroom. 37th floor, glass walls overlooking the city. The same room where Marcus had presented quarterly reports dozens of times. Now it felt like a courtroom. Richard arrived at 9:55, 5 minutes before the scheduled meeting. He looked composed, confident, a man who'd never lost a corporate battle and didn't expect to start today. His eyes found Marcus, and something dark flickered across his face. Anger, contempt, the look of someone who'd offered mercy and been rejected. Mr. Hayes, I'm surprised to see you here. This is a board meeting. You're not a board member. He's here as a witness, Margaret said calmly. I've invoked my right to present evidence relevant to company leadership. Marcus has information the board needs to hear. Information obtained through a legal means, I'd wager. Information obtained through legitimate investigation. But we'll let the board decide its relevance. The other board members filed in, 12 total, including Richard and Elena. Marcus studied their faces, trying to gauge allegiances. 3 were clearly Richard's people, expensive suits and expensive loyalties. Another 2 looked nervous, men who'd grown comfortable with corruption but lacked the stomach for open conflict. The rest were wild cards, business people who valued profit but might still have lines they wouldn't cross. Richard called the meeting to order, his voice smooth as silk. We're here to address the continued viability of Elena Torres as CEO. Recent events have raised serious questions about her judgment and stability. I move we hear evidence before discussing removal, Margaret interrupted. Evidence of financial impropriety that makes questions about Elena's fitness seem somewhat ironic. Richard's jaw tightened. That's not on the agenda. I'm making it the agenda, unless you'd like to explain to the board why you're so eager to avoid financial scrutiny. The room shifted. Board members exchanged glances. Even Richard's allies looked uncertain. Very well, Richard said finally. Present your evidence. Let's see what desperation looks like. Margaret nodded to Marcus. The moment had arrived. Marcus stood, connecting his laptop to the room's display system. His hands were steady, his voice was calm. 3 years of Marine discipline channeled into this moment. My name is Marcus Hayes. I'm a senior financial analyst here. Former Marine, former FBI forensic accountant. For the past 3 weeks, I've been investigating financial irregularities at Ashford Technologies. The first slide appeared, Meridian Advisory, payment history spanning 3 years. This is a shell company that's received approximately $1.2 million over 3 years for consulting services never rendered. Work product never delivered. Reports never filed. He showed the payment patterns, the approval signatures. Every transaction approved by Richard Ashford or Diane Foster. Shell companies are legal if they provide actual services. This one doesn't. It exists solely to funnel money out of Ashford Technologies. Richard leaned back, his expression bored. These payments were for confidential consulting. Strategic advice. Not everything generates physical reports. Then perhaps you can explain communications between Meridian and accounts in the Cayman Islands. Marcus pulled up the next slides. Bank records, wire transfers, money flowing from Meridian to offshore accounts. $12.4 million, moved systematically over 3 years. The room went silent. 12 million wasn't a rounding error. It was theft on a massive scale. Marcus continued, methodical and relentless, each slide built on the last. Payment patterns. Offshore accounts, the sophisticated network Richard had constructed to hide his theft. These records were obtained illegally, Richard said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Breaking into my home, stealing private data. I attended your gala as a guest. What I observed while there is fair game. Marcus played the audio recording. Richard's voice filled the room, clear and damning. The Meridian transfers are complete. 12.4 million in Cayman accounts. Once Elena's removed and Hayes is neutralized, we'll phase out the progressive nonsense. The board members sat frozen, hearing their chairman casually discuss embezzlement, hearing the conspiracy laid bare. Marcus didn't give Richard time to recover. He advanced to the next evidence. Communications between Richard and Cameron Blake. Payment schedules. Instructions to infiltrate Elena's life. $250,000 to destroy her professionally and personally. Cameron Blake was paid to date Elena Torres, to gather intelligence, to create scandal when it served Richard's purposes. Elena's face had gone pale, but she held her composure. This was her company, her father's legacy, and she was watching it be reclaimed. Richard stood, his control cracking. This is absurd, fabricated evidence from a desperate employee and his patron. Then perhaps Ms. Foster would like to comment? Marcus looked at Diane. You were there when Richard discussed this. You heard the admissions. You participated. All eyes turned to Diane. She sat very still, decades of corporate experience warring with conscience. Finally, she stood. Her voice shook but held firm. It's true, all of it. I've been complicit in systematic embezzlement for 3 years. I signed fraudulent approvals. I helped hide transactions. I looked away when I should have spoken up. Her voice grew stronger. But I won't hide anymore. Richard Ashford has stolen $12.4 million from this company. He's manipulated board decisions. He's destroyed anyone who opposed him. And I have documentation proving every word Marcus just said. She handed Margaret a folder. Additional evidence. The insider testimony that made everything undeniable. Richard's face went white. Diane, you don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm telling the truth for the first time in 3 years. The board erupted. Questions, accusations. Richard's allies suddenly finding reasons to distance themselves. Marcus waited for the chaos to settle, then played his final card. The threat Richard had sent. Maya's photo from the school playground. The explicit message. This arrived Saturday night, from Richard Ashford's phone number, threatening my 6-year-old daughter because I wouldn't return evidence of his crimes. The room went deadly silent. Board members stared at the image of Maya, gap-toothed and smiling, unaware she was being used as leverage. Even Richard's staunchest allies looked sick. You threatened a child, Margaret said, her voice filled with disgust. Whatever else might be debatable, that crosses every line. Richard's control shattered completely. She's leverage. Hayes was going to destroy everything. I was protecting this company. You were protecting your theft, Elena said quietly. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. My father built this company on integrity. You corrupted it. You corrupted good people like Diane. And when I tried to restore his values, you conspired to remove me. Your father was an idealistic fool. My father built this from nothing, created thousands of jobs, changed lives. You're a parasite who fed on his legacy. The room held its breath. The real battle wasn't between Richard and Marcus. It was between two visions of what a company should be. Richard's cynical extraction of value. Elena's father's belief that business could be both profitable and ethical. I move for immediate removal of Richard Ashford as board chairman, Margaret said, and I move to refer all evidence to the Securities and Exchange Commission for criminal investigation. Seconded, said another board member immediately. All in favor? Hands rose around the table. 1, 2, 5, 7, 9. Only Richard's three closest conspirators abstained, their silence an admission of their own guilt. Motion carries. Richard Ashford, you're removed from the board effective immediately. Two security guards appeared at the door, summoned by Margaret before the meeting even started. Richard looked around the room, seeking support that no longer existed. This company will collapse without me. This company will finally have a chance to be what it should have been all along, Elena said. Ethical, transparent, worthy of my father's name. Richard was let out, still protesting. His voice faded down the hallway, leaving only silence in its wake. Marcus sat down heavily, adrenaline crash hitting. 3 weeks of investigation, 3 weeks of risk, and in 40 minutes it was over. Margaret turned to Elena. I move to reinstate Elena Torres as CEO, effective immediately. All in favor? Every hand rose except the three conspirators. Motion carries. Welcome back, Elena. Elena stood, tears threatening despite her controlled expression. Thank you. My first act is to authorize full cooperation with federal investigators. We'll root out every instance of corruption. We'll restore this company to what it should be, even if the process hurts. The meeting adjourned. Board members filtered out, some congratulating Elena, others avoiding eye contact, calculating their own legal exposure. Marcus gathered his laptop, his hands finally shaking now that the crisis had passed. Elena approached him. We did it. The hardest part, everything else is just cleanup. Cleanup that will take months, maybe years. She touched his arm. But we told the truth. That's what matters. Lisa appeared in the doorway. The press is gathering in the lobby. Word travels fast. They want a statement. Elena looked at Marcus. Together? Together. The press conference happened quickly. Elena at the podium, Marcus standing beside her, visible but not seeking attention. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Elena spoke with brutal honesty. The embezzlement, the conspiracy, the systematic corruption. She didn't minimize or deflect, just laid out the truth and accepted responsibility for not catching it sooner. I failed to protect my father's company. That changes today. We're implementing independent audits, whistleblower protections, complete financial transparency. We're going to be what Ashford Technologies should have been from the beginning. A reporter asked about Marcus. Mr. Hayes, you risked everything to investigate your own company. Why? Marcus stepped to the microphone, uncomfortable but committed. Because my daughter was watching. Because integrity matters more than comfort. Because sometimes you have to stand up, even when it costs you everything. The clip went viral within hours. The analyst who'd taken down corporate corruption. Social media exploded with support, though Marcus largely ignored it. He'd done what needed doing. The attention was just noise. By evening, Richard had been arrested at his home. Diane was cooperating with authorities in exchange for reduced charges. 3 other board members were under investigation. The conspiracy was unraveling in real time. Marcus drove home through the city lights, exhausted but at peace. He picked up Maya from Patricia's house, held her tight, breathed in the scent of her hair. How was your day, Daddy? Long, but good. Very good. Did you win? Yeah, Princess. We won. The trial moved faster than anyone expected. Federal prosecutors loved clean cases, and this one was immaculate. Recordings, documents, insider testimony. Richard's lawyers tried every trick, claimed entrapment, argued technicalities, attacked credibility. Nothing worked. Marcus watched parts of the trial on television, but didn't attend in person. He'd given his testimony, provided his evidence. The rest was just theater. 3 months after the boardroom confrontation, the verdict came down. Guilty on all counts: wire fraud, embezzlement, extortion, money laundering. The judge threw the book at him. 25 years federal prison, asset forfeiture, complete destruction of everything he'd built. Marcus felt no joy watching Richard led away in chains. No triumph, just relief that it was over. Elena called minutes after the sentencing. Her voice was quiet, reflective. Justice. Yeah, finally. Marcus, I need to tell you something. Something I should have said months ago. She paused, gathering courage. I'm in love with you. Have been since that first night. Since you let a crying stranger into your home and showed her what kindness looks like. Marcus's breath caught. He'd felt it too. The pull, the connection. But he'd been scared. Scared of failing again. Scared of teaching Maya that love always ended in loss. You don't have to say it back, Elena continued quickly. I know this is complicated. I know you're still grieving. I know there are 100 reasons this is a terrible idea. But after everything we've been through, I couldn't not tell you. Marcus thought about Teresa, about the promise he'd made, about whether loving again meant forgetting. But Teresa's voice in his memory was clear. Don't stop living because I couldn't stay. Love who deserves it, and let them love you back. I love you too, Marcus said. Have for a while now. I've just been scared. Of what? Of this being temporary, of losing again, of showing Maya that opening your heart just leads to pain. Or we could show her that love is worth the risk, that some people are worth the fear. They talked for hours that night, about taking it slow, about not rushing something precious, about building a foundation strong enough to last. Over the following months, they dated carefully. Weekly dinners where Maya joined them. Museum trips, movies where his daughter sat between them, making commentary. Simple moments that built trust. Marcus's consulting firm opened with a shoestring budget and a dream. Hayes Financial Solutions, helping veterans transition, teaching financial literacy in underserved communities, working with small businesses who couldn't afford big firms. The money was modest, the impact was real. Elena invested as promised, provided office space, connected him with clients, became his champion in circles that might have dismissed a lone analyst. Patricia's health stabilized, better medication, better care. She watched her son fall in love again with quiet satisfaction. Teresa would approve, she said one Sunday. You think so? I know so. She wanted you happy, wanted Maya to see what healthy love looks like. Patricia touched his cheek. Elena's good for both of you. Don't let fear stop you from living. 1 year after that midnight knock, Marcus took Elena back to his apartment building, the same spot where she'd stood, soaking wet and devastated. Rain fell softly around them. Not a storm this time, just a gentle reminder of where they'd started. A year ago, you knocked on my door during a storm, and you let me in, changed everything. Want to know a secret? Marcus smiled. I almost didn't answer. Almost let you stand there. What changed your mind? I heard you crying, remembered that courage isn't avoiding fear. It's acting despite it. Marcus knelt down, the wet pavement soaked through his pants, but he didn't care. He pulled out a simple ring. Honest. True. Like everything between them. Elena Torres, I spent 3 years existing instead of living. You reminded me there's a difference. You showed me that opening my heart doesn't dishonor Teresa's memory. It honors what she wanted for me. His voice caught. Will you marry me? Elena's eyes filled with tears. That's supposed to be my line. You saved my life. Is that a yes or a negotiation? It's a yes, always yes. They kissed there on the sidewalk where everything had started, where two broken people had found each other and built something stronger than either could have managed alone. Maya appeared from around the corner where she'd been hiding with Patricia. Finally, I've been waiting forever. Elena laughed, scooping the girl up. You knew? Daddy told me last week. Asked if I'd be okay with you being my new mom. Maya hugged Elena tight. I said yes first. He just took forever to ask you. Patricia joined them, completing their small circle. Welcome to the family, Elena. Officially. The wedding came 6 months later. Small ceremony in Patricia's garden. 50 people who actually mattered. Maya as flower girl, taking her duties with absolute seriousness. Marcus stood at the simple arch watching Elena walk toward him. She wore a dress the color of dawn, carried wildflowers instead of roses, looked more beautiful than any boardroom CEO ever had. The officiant spoke about love forged in crisis, about two people who'd stood together when it mattered, about building something real from something broken. Elena, do you take Marcus? I do. Completely. Forever. Marcus, do you take Elena? I do. For everything she is and everything will become together. They exchanged rings, simple bands engraved with their wedding date in one word: courage. You may kiss your bride. He did, while Maya cheered and their family applauded. The reception was barbecue in the backyard, music from a Bluetooth speaker, dancing on grass, not elegant or sophisticated, just real, just theirs. As evening fell and guests mingled, Marcus and Elena stood apart, watching their family celebrate. What are you thinking? Elena asked. That a year ago I was surviving, going through motions, and now I'm living. We both are. 2 years after the trial, the Hayes Torres family had settled into a rhythm. Marcus's firm employed 15 people across 3 cities, not making him rich, but making him proud. Elena led Ashford Technologies differently now. Home by 6 for family dinners. Weekends protected. She'd learned that empires without family were just fancy prisons. They'd established the Jonathan Ashford Legacy Fund, named after Elena's father. Scholarships, veteran programs, financial literacy classes, using wealth to build the world he'd envisioned. One evening, Marcus found Elena in their home office reviewing foundation proposals. Come to bed, it's late. Just finishing. We got an application from a single father, former military, trying to get his accounting degree while raising 2 kids. She smiled. Reminds me of someone. Fund him. Already did. 3 years tuition. From down the hall came Maya's voice. Dad, the baby's crying. Jonathan, their son, born 8 months ago, named after Elena's father, loud and healthy and demanding. Marcus picked up his son, who immediately stopped crying and reached for his father's face with pudgy hands. Hey, buddy, let's get you changed. Elena appeared in the doorway. Her family, her choices, her life built on the foundation of one midnight decision. What? Marcus asked, catching her expression. Just grateful for all of this. For dirty diapers and no sleep? For you, for us, for second chances. Maya appeared, 9 years old now and full of opinions. That's the worst smell ever. When I have kids, they're not going to be this stinky. That's what everyone thinks, Elena laughed. Later, when both children slept and the house was quiet, Marcus and Elena sat on their back porch. Stars overhead, city lights distant. Do you ever think about that night? Marcus asked. Wonder what would have happened if I hadn't opened the door. Every day, and I thank God you did. I almost didn't, but you did. You chose courage over caution. Elena took his hand. You changed my life. We changed each other's. That's how it's supposed to work. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Mr. Hayes, my name is Robert Chen. I'm a financial analyst at Goldman Sachs. I've discovered systematic fraud at the executive level. Everyone knows, but no one will speak up. I saw what you did at Ashford. I don't know who else to trust. Can we talk? Marcus showed Elena the text. She read it and smiled. What are you going to do? Marcus thought about the easy answer, about how he'd earned peace and the right to protect what he'd built, about all the safe reasons to say no. Then he thought about Maya, about the man he'd promised to be, about the example he was setting every single day. He typed back, coffee tomorrow, I'll listen. No promises except honesty. Elena kissed his cheek. There's my hero. Just a man trying to do right. Same thing. They went inside together toward their sleeping children and their hard-won life, knowing that some things were worth fighting for. That integrity wasn't convenient, but it was essential. Marcus checked on Maya one last time. She was sprawled across her bed, one arm hanging off, mouth open in deep sleep. On her nightstand sat a drawing she'd made at school. My hero dad, in crayon letters. He straightened her blanket, kissed her forehead. I hope I'm earning that title, princess, he whispered. Every single day. In the nursery, Jonathan slept peacefully, tiny fists curled beside his head. The next generation, the future they were building. Marcus returned to the bedroom where Elena waited. She was already half asleep, but she reached for his hand. "Love you," she murmured. "Love you too." He lay in the darkness, listening to his family breathe, thinking about the journey, about a midnight knock that had led to corporate warfare, federal trials, and this quiet moment of peace, about how doing the right thing had cost him the life he'd known and given him the life he'd needed, about how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is answer when courage knocks at your door, even when you're scared, even when you can't see where it leads, even when every logical reason says to stay safe behind locked doors. Because on the other side of fear, you might find purpose, might find love, might find the life you were always meant to live. Marcus had opened that door, had chosen integrity over comfort, had walked through fire and come out stronger, and he'd do it again without hesitation. Because some things were worth any price, worth any risk, worth everything you had to give. His family, his integrity, his choice to stand up when it mattered. That was the only legacy that counted, the only thing Richard Ashford's money could never buy. And as Marcus drifted towards sleep, Teresa's voice echoed in his memory one last time. Not sad, not haunting, just proud. "You kept your promise, Marcus. You showed her what matters. You became the man I always knew you were." He smiled in the darkness. "Thanks, baby. I'm still trying, every single day." Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. Somewhere, corruption still existed. Somewhere, people still chose profit over principle. But in one house, one family slept peacefully. Their battles fought, their choices made, their integrity intact. And that made all the difference. The end.